morning, YouTube. I'm Rob Santinello. Welcome back to the channel. So the last time we spoke, I discussed that there was a lot of things I did to the Jeep in the year and a half that I bought it, but I didn't really go into it. So today I'm going to talk about everything I've done to my 1999 Jeep TJ. Let's first do a walk around of it. It's a gunmetal pearl metallic. This was only made for 3 years, from 1997 to 1999. Depending on the sunlight, it either looks a little blue or a little bit more gray. But I think it's one of the colors that makes it stand out the most from other Jeep TJs because you don't really see it a lot. It makes it look more modern, in my opinion. It really pops in the sun, as you can see. When I first bought it, it was very scary. I had the death wobble. Everyone doesn't want the death wobble. I had the death wobble. I was all over the road. I had to go 30 miles back home on a highway, and I was basically crawling. So let's start in the front end, because that's where a lot of the work was done. This did come with a 4-inch Skyjacker lift on it, which is a pretty basic lift, so I'm not surprised that there was a lot of issues there. So we did a heavy-duty track bar in the front. We did front axle U-joints, the brake backing plates as well, because they were rusted off. We had to do front wheel bearings and bolts as well. And that pretty much gave us everything we needed to get the front end done. Now, it does have a drop pitman arm, which you're really not supposed to have on a lifted Jeep. Back in the day, they did say you should have one, but people started to figure out that the Jeep's steering capabilities were actually compromised. So I still have the drop pitman arm. I do get a little wheel vibration at the very beginning when I start driving it, and a little bump steer here and there, but it does need a new a non-dropped pitman arm. This is the inline 6 bulletproof engine. Really can't have too much that goes wrong with it, but I did notice that there was a coolant leak. We did put a new water pump in. We did do a new thermostat and gasket, and we also did some upper and lower radiator hoses. I haven't had any problems with leaking from this area since, and all the temperatures are perfect. Front and the rear diff, they were both leaking, so we went in, we just ripped the diff off, we sealed it back up with some new coolant, and we did that on both sides. Head gasket, they're known to leak at the back bolt if they're not fully tightened down, which this one was. So I did have to do a new head gasket. That wasn't really a big deal, took about an hour. The other thing is I noticed a slight transmission leak. The transmission pan gasket was also faulty. It seemed pretty old when I took it off. So I took the old one off, put a new one on. I put a new filter in, flushed the transmission fluid afterwards myself. It really wasn't that big of a deal. Another thing that I had to do, the suspension. Like I said, it had a Skyjacker lift on it. I put a new Rancho 5000 front and rear shocks. It makes it ride so much better. It was really easy to do. Besides the bolts being a little rusted, you don't need to take the Jeep off of the tires. They can just stay on there being supported by the springs. So last thing I did was just some rough country front sway bar end links. Just pop the old ones out, put the new ones in. It's very simple. I'm gonna jump in here with a voiceover because of the wind noise in the background. But we did 5 new tires all the way around. They were the Mickey Thompson Baja ATZ P3 33 by 12.5 by 15s. They ride really great on the road. Really no road noise at all. I think with the 4-inch lift, it looks really great. Not too big, so there's no rubbing, and not too small. The issue became Mavis. They couldn't balance the tires. They did not have a road force machine, so I had to go to another shop. It was like $100 to balance the wheels, which I thought was pretty crazy, but this is the first time I've had a really large tire on one of my vehicles. And then we just did some front and rear brakes. That was pretty much it service-wise. We did do an oil change, a new filter. That's pretty easy. So now let's talk about cosmetic, because that's obviously why a lot of people like these Jeeps. What we first did was we took off the front bumper and we put on this EAG bumper. You can put on some D shackles, which I liked. You can set up a winch on it, which I do like as well. You can put some lights up here. It really gives you a lot of options, and it was pretty inexpensive. I got it right off eBay, and it bolts right up. It does have this kind of a rhino liner coating on it. I haven't had any rust issues yet, so let's hope that for a Chinese-made product, it doesn't really have any. We did do the 7-inch LED headlights. It does have a low beam and a high beam. These can be found pretty easily and pretty cheap because they're used a lot on motorcycles. And then we just did some accent rings with this flat black as well. I took off the old fenders all the way around, and I just hit it with some sandpaper, and then I just sprayed it with some high performance gloss black just to bring back the look. I did the same thing for the side view mirrors as well. You will see right here and on the other side as well some paint. So there was some of that standard body Jeep rust that sits behind the fenders and sits under the door. We pulled it out. We put some new metal in there, and then look, I'm not a paint guy, and it's a very hard color to match. And I thought when I was doing it in my garage, it doesn't have the best lighting in the world, that I could sand and kind of fade in the paint to make it match. Once I got done, that's what it came out to be. So obviously that isn't the case, but I do have some rocker guards which will cover up at least, you know, most of it up to here. But you know, depending on the light, you really can't notice too much. We did a swing away tire carrier. I think it's really needed when you have these large tires, because you want to take the support off of the rear tailgate and put it onto the frame. So this is a Red Rock 4x4 raw crawler with a swing out tire carrier. What I would recommend is when you do put the tire carrier on, you add some extra grease right around here. You know, this slips over this base. Add some extra grease. You're gonna need it. It will make the tire carrier swing out much easier. And then it just swings out like so. And like I said, add some grease and it'll slide really easily. I mean, this is almost no weight whatsoever. So it also has that coating, you know, the Raptor liner type of coating on it, which I do like. You can set up a hitch if you want. It doesn't support towing, but if you want to put on a back basket so you can have some more room, that's what I would use it for personally. That's what I would do. Now, these tire carriers are known to be a little bit cheaper because they do squeak. So what you want to do is just I took some felt supports for like a chair, and I just put them in here, and that gives a nice solid cushion so it won't really move. See, really not much going on there. But if you hear people talk about how they don't like this tire carrier, it's because it does squeak. But just do that for a couple bucks, and you don't have to worry about that anymore. So obviously once you put on the swing out tire carrier and this large tire, you lose your third brake light, which is supposed to be above the tire. So to be compliant with at least the state of New Jersey, we put on these Delta Force lights. They just slip right in behind your spare tire, and then we just run the same wire down here back into the tailgate. One of the things that these Jeeps are obviously plagued with, especially in the Northeast where I am, is rust. What I did is I went under the Jeep and I hit every single piece of this frame with an angle grinder. Every single piece that I could. Hit it with an angle grinder, and then I hit it with some automotive black paint, and where I needed to put any rust preventer on there, I did that as well. But for the frame, being a Northeast frame, it was pretty clean. We even did it up front, we did it under the fenders, we did it on the springs, we did it all in the front and the back end. I mean, it looks really great, especially in the sunlight. You know, no rust is really nice, especially when you want a clean looking Jeep like I do. And we do have some KC headlights. These actually came with the Jeep. I do really like them. Now, because we have the LED front headlights, these KC lights aren't really used. They can shoot a little bit farther, but they don't give you that much more support than the front. Now let's come inside to the Jeep. One of the things I wanted to do is make it look a little bit more modern inside. So we put on these Iggy synthetic leather seat covers front and rear. They're not the cheapest by any means, but they formed the seats really, really well, which I really like. And you know, look, they can get hot, obviously, but they don't get that hot where you will regret buying them. One of the biggest things that I had to do was I wanted to Raptor line the interior. We took out all the seats, we took out the center console, I sanded down the interior as best as I could. I took out all the wiring, and we bought a Raptor liner kit off, I think it was off Lowe's. I think they had the cheapest one. Bought a Raptor liner kit, and as you can see, everything is Raptor lined, which is, look, it's a little bit of a pain to do, but I have the security that I don't have to worry about any rust forming going forward, which is really nice. And yet again, with the black seat covers and the black floors, it looks really good. Now what I will say is, in the Raptor liner kit, it comes with a gritty material which you can put on to get more traction. Personally, I don't recommend doing it. I did do it on the first application and it was so sharp, so I had to go back over it again with some sandpaper and then put a third coat, or put a second coat on back over it to kind of get rid of that gritty material. And look, my dogs will go in here and I don't want them to hurt their paws, so that was an issue for me. So I would say probably stay away from that gritty material. It's supposed to give you some more traction, but I really don't recommend it. So you really can't see it that well in here. I'll throw up a photo. This is the Smittybilt C-Res HD2 cargo net. The great thing about this cargo net and why I want it is, like I said, I do put my dogs in here. I have 2 chows, and the one chow specifically, the younger one, he really wants to get out and put his head out the window, which I don't want to do. So when you have a cargo net option, you can either get one where you can't use your soft top, and you have another one when you can use the soft top as well. So the Smittybilt C-Res 2 HD, the one that I bought, you can still run a soft top with the cargo net on here, which I really, really like. I did also put on a Rugged Ridge dash mount. I want a little bit more, storage options for my wallet, for my phone. It does come with a mount for your phone if you want to have your GPS on there. Now the Jeep did come with a Pioneer aftermarket head unit. I just hook up my iPhone to it and run my audio through there. It does have Bluetooth capability. You can see the mic is right here. I haven't used it, but that is an option. And then you can see we have the button for the KC headlights. I did also have to put a new headlight switch in. These are known to go. I did put on a stubby, Rugged Ridge stubby 6-inch antenna. That's pretty much it. I'm gonna make another video talking about each thing and how much I paid for it. I think, like I said in my previous video, the transparency about how much these Jeeps cost, or any vehicle, and how much money I spend on them is kind of what I think people really want to know, in case they want to buy it in the future for themselves and then kind of figure out what they're running into. I did know that it needed a lot of work, but I didn't know it needed as much work as I put into it and as much money as I spent. That's the little teaser, but I'll go into that in the next video, and I'll break down all the costs from what I purchased it for to what I spent on all the modifications, aftermarket, maintenance, stuff like that. If you have any questions about what I've done to the Jeep, where I found the parts that I found for it, just any general questions, I know there's a lot of information out there for these Jeep Wrangler TJs, but please comment, I'll respond back. And if you like this video and you want to see other videos going forward, please gently hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.